my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you 3 really easy and inexpensive fall wreaths. All of the ones I'm going to be showing you are mini wreaths, but you can make them any size that you want. Let me know in the comments down below if you guys are enjoying the fall videos here on my channel and if you want to see more of them. Alright, let's go ahead and jump right into today's video. For the first wreath, I'll be using a metal wreath ring, some burlap ribbon, fall floral picks, and some pliers to cut my stems. To start out, I'm going to be taking my burlap ribbon and I'm going to be tying a knot around one of the metal pieces around the wreath ring to make sure that it's secure. Now that I have my ribbon attached to my wreath ring, I'm going to be making the bubbles in my wreath, and to do that I'm just bringing the ribbon up through the first section of the wreath ring, and then I'm twisting the ribbon twice, and then I'm bringing more ribbon up through the outer wreath ring, and then I'm twisting twice again before I bring it back through the inner ring, just like I did the first one, and I'm repeating that process over and over again until the ribbon is completely covering my wreath ring. I'm twisting twice between each bubble so that they stay in place, and also after every section of bubbles that I'm making, I'm pushing the ribbon really close to the previous section of bubbles that I made so that at the end I have a really full wreath. When I come to the end of one of my ribbon spools, I'm just knotting it off around one of the metal pieces, and the same for starting a new spool. Just like I did when we started the wreath, I'm making a knot around one of the metal pieces and then starting my bubbles once again. This metal wreath frame is about 6 inches, and I used 4.5 of this burlap ribbon, and it comes in 9 feet per spool. Once I got to the end of my wreath, I just tied it off in a knot and then cut off the excess piece. And this is what it looks like with all of the ribbon attached. And now I'm cutting my fall stems with my pliers. I'm going to be attaching these stems right onto the wire portion of the frame in between the burlap ribbon. Each one of my fall stems had wires on them, so it made it really easy for me to just wrap them around my metal frame. And that is the last step for this super simple wreath. Let's go ahead and move on to the second wreath. For this next wreath, I'll be using the Waverly Inspirations chalk paint in the color Ivory and in Hazelnut. I'll also be using the Folk Art chalk paint in Castle. I'll be using a couple of paint brushes, pumpkin clips from Dollar Tree, a lamb's ear wreath, and mine is from Hobby Lobby, my hot glue gun, burlap ribbon from Dollar Tree, and buffalo check ribbon from Hobby Lobby. To start out on this one, I'm taking out all of the stems of my mini pumpkins. Once I have out all of the stems of my pumpkins, I'm painting them with that chalk paint in the color Ivory, and I only did 1 coat of this paint. Once that paint was dry, I took the chalk paint in the color Castle, and I'm painting that in between all of the indents in the pumpkin. After that color was painted on, I took the color Hazelnut and I painted that right over top of the color Castle. I used more than 1 paint color because I wanted my pumpkins to have a little bit of extra dimension to them, and I didn't like the original white color that they came in. That's why I chose to do them in the Ivory. And now I'm just painting my stems with that color Castle as well, and once they're dry, I'm placing them back into my pumpkins. Now that my pumpkins are finished, I'm simply going to be attaching them to my lamb's ear wreath that I picked up from Hobby Lobby, and these pumpkins already have clips on them, so I'm just clipping them along the stems of this wreath, and I did end up only using 4 of the pumpkins. Now I'm cutting 3 strips of this burlap ribbon, 2 at about 8 inches and 1 at about 10, and this is going to make my burlap bow. I'm hot gluing both of my 8-inch strips that I cut to make 2 circles. Next, I'm taking my 2 strips that I glued together and I'm placing those right in the middle of that 10-inch strip, and I'm gathering the material in the middle, and I'm going to be forming my bow. And then I'm taking a piece of jute and I'm wrapping it around the middle of the bow and just making it really tight before I tie it off and then cut off the excess jute. I'm taking my buffalo check ribbon and making a double bow. I'm placing the ribbon over top my 2 fingers, I'm zigzagging it, and then I'm taking the outer ribbon and placing it in between where my hand meets my fingers and then pulling the ribbon tight to make my double bow. I'm taking another piece of the buffalo check ribbon and I'm attaching it to my burlap bow with some hot glue. I'm putting the hot glue right on the burlap ribbon and then placing the buffalo check ribbon on top of the glue to attach it, and then I'm just cutting off the excess and hot gluing that piece down. Next, I'm attaching my buffalo check double bow right in the center of my burlap bow using some hot glue. And then I'm cutting off any extra long pieces on my ribbons, and then I'm cutting a diagonal shape on the end of my burlap ribbon. And for the final step, I'm placing a little bit of hot glue right on the stem of my lamb's ear wreath to attach my bows. And this is the final result for this wreath. Let's go ahead and move on to the third and final wreath. For this wreath, I'll be using an 8-inch embroidery hoop, the Waverly Inspirations chalk paint in the color ink, this metal welcome word from Dollar Tree, fabric from Hobby Lobby, burlap ribbon from Dollar Tree, a foam brush, scissors, my hot glue gun, and some jute. To start out, I'm cutting my fabric out in about 2-inch thick strips, and I cut a bunch of these out, and then I'm taking that chalk paint in the color ink and I did 2 coats of that over this welcome word that I got from Dollar Tree. Then I'm unscrewing the top of the embroidery hoop and I'm taking out the inner circle, and that's the circle that I'm going to be using. Now I'm going to be taking my strips of fabric and I'm simply going to be tying them in a knot around my embroidery hoop, and I'm going to be doing this step over and over again until my entire hoop is covered in the fabric. After every knot is made, I push it close to the previous knot that I had made so that I don't have any gaps showing and you can't see the embroidery hoop through the fabric. Once I have all of my fabric strips tied around my hoop, I'm then going to be taking some of this burlap ribbon and I'm going to be tying a knot around my hoop just like I did with the fabric, and I'm going to be doing this in 5 different spots on my hoop just to add a little bit of extra color. Now I'm giving my wreath a little bit of a trim. Some of my fabric pieces were a little bit longer than the others, so I'm just evening those out a little bit. Next, I'm taking this burlap ribbon and attaching it in the middle of the back of my wreath using some hot glue. I'm putting the hot glue right on top of the ribbon, and then I'm placing that right on top of the fabric on the back of the wreath. And once I have that all attached, I'm going to be flipping it over and then fluffing up the fabric pieces before I attach my welcome word. And I'm going to be attaching it using a little bit of hot glue. I'm just placing a little bit of glue right on top of the fabric and then placing the word on top of that. And then for the final step, I'm just attaching some jute at the very top as my hanger. This is the final result for this wreath and also the last wreath in this video. All of these wreaths were so easy and inexpensive to make. If you enjoyed today's video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you're not subscribed, I would love it so much if you would subscribe. Be sure to hit that notification bell so you can be notified for all of my future videos. As always, thank you so much for watching.